All right, what's up? What's good? What's happening? What it do, baby? You are tuned in to another episode of the Why Not Us, Why Not Now podcast. It's your boy Xavier, aka X, aka Zay, joined by my brother from another, Kory Blackshear. Y'all know him as KB. KB, what's good, bro?
What's happening? What's happening, everybody?
Man, we got a jam-packed show for everybody, but we got to start off with the news across the college football world that just broke in the past hour. And that is Trinidad Chambliss is going to get his extra year of eligibility, KB. He was fighting like crazy. You know, he was being told basically it wasn't going to happen. Almost basically was told to giving up, but they kept fighting and they got that year of eligibility for next year. A judge out of Mississippi granting him that year. So I guess it's going to be the Trinidad Chambliss show at Ole Miss next year.
Yeah, man. And if you saw anything from this college football playoff, you understand how big a deal this is. He played lights out. Even in the game that they lost against Miami, he played his butt off the entire playoff run. From the games against Georgia, even in the first game against Georgia, you saw that he had something special. So the fact that he was willing to fight as much as he did, and he had the backing of his program for him to come back, this is going to be a big deal for just not even just for the national championship picture, but just for the SEC picture as well, because we knew that had he been able to come back, Ole Miss was set to make another long run like this again. And I think that it's very important that a lot of people see that they already have re-signed Lacey back as well. So they're getting their running back and their quarterback coming back next year. So that's a really big deal for Ole Miss. I think that they're set up to make another run and possibly, it's too early to say, but they could make another run and they could possibly win this thing next year.
We'll definitely have to see that. There's going to be more film on tape for everybody to study as they go into next season. I want to read the statement from the Ole Miss Athletics Department that came out on X, formerly known as Twitter. Quote, "We are excited for Trinidad and grateful to Judge Whitwell for making the right decision today. We appreciate the thoughtful consideration given to this matter and for the court's recognition of the circumstances surrounding Trinidad's case. We believe this outcome affirms what we have maintained throughout this process, that Trinidad deserves the opportunity to compete and complete his collegiate career on the field. Trinidad has demonstrated tremendous perseverance, character, and commitment to his teammates, this university, and college football. We remain fully supportive of him and his legal team, who have worked diligently to ensure his eligibility was fairly evaluated. Ole Miss Athletics will continue to advocate for our student athletes and support them in pursuing every opportunity afforded to them under the rules and the law." Your reaction?
Like I said, this is I think this is a positive thing. I know a lot of people are, I've heard different things coming from different people about why he was fighting so hard for this 6-year eligibility, I believe. And like I said, it's a whole different ball game with college football nowadays than it was of our parents' days and even us coming up. Like the amount of money that has been in this NIL, just everything that's going on in college football landscape, it's different now. So a lot of people were wondering why wasn't he wanting to go pro. But then you got to think about it also, like that may not be in the cards for every single athlete out there, no matter how well they perform on a college level. We see a lot of guys that this may very well be the end of the road. So I'm glad that he's getting another chance. COVID kind of messed a lot of things up. So that also has to factor into all of this. So it's not just that I think this is the last year of the COVID related eligibility things as well. So, I'm not mad at it. I just think that, either you're going to love it or hate it. I'm not mad at it. I think that it's a good thing that he's going to be able to come back. So I'm glad they were able to make that ruling and get him back.
Well, now let me read you a statement from some folks who definitely are not going to be on the side of loving it, and that would be the NCAA. Quote, "This decision in a state court illustrates the impossible situation created by deferring court decisions that serve to undermine rules agreed to by the same NCAA members who later challenged them in court. We will continue to defend the NCAA's eligibility rules against repeated attempts to rob future generations of the opportunity to compete in college and experience the life-changing opportunities only college sports can create. The NCAA and its member schools are making changes to deliver more benefits to student athletes, but the patchwork of state laws and inconsistent, conflicting court decisions make partnering with Congress essential to provide stability for current and future college athletes. KB, before you go on this one, I just want to ask a couple of questions here. Is this the same NCAA who has been stretching out all of these rules, allowing for more JUCO eligibility, more years of eligibility to begin with anyway? Heck, in college basketball right now, and I know we're talking about college football, but in college basketball right now, we've seen a few guys be able to go pro to the NBA, wear a uniform, and then be able to come back and play college basketball. I have no pity for the NCAA in this matter whatsoever, because as far as I'm concerned, the NCAA has been a mess house for years upon decades now, and somebody needs to come in there and get the house in order.
Yeah, I don't feel bad for anything that the NCAA has tried to regulate at this point, because now you have to pretty much wallow in the mess that you created. Because now there is no type of if there is restrictions, it's very little. And we've seen, like, even when you just brought up the college basketball portion of it, it's such a mess with college basketball now, to the point where, like you said, what is the point of even going to recruit someone out of high school when I could just go get a pro player who just wants to come back, who may have not got his footing down in the NBA? It's literally just that simple. Like, I don't feel sorry for the college, NCAA in general, because the ones that are making these rules and just making it a free for all, it's going to be a problem. I think it's going to happen sooner or later, that there's going to be a problem that they're going to basically have to live with. And, that includes what's going on right now. Like, everything that they've done and everything that they're doing signals that, there are no rules when it comes to this. So, like, you're trying to lay down the law when it comes to certain issues, but in other issues, you have grown men coming back to play college basketball. You have, these NIL deals are going completely out of control. Transfer portal going out of control. I think that this is basically just a mess right now. I'm talking about for college sports altogether. I think that this is just going to keep getting worse until someone steps in and cleans it up. But that may be years down the line until we actually see some type of change.
I'm with you on this. I want to go back to the Trinidad Chambliss angle and all of this too, though, because I'm very happy that he gets this as well, mainly for the fact that the period for players to decide if they were going to declare or not for the NFL draft has already passed. So he was going to be screwed pretty much if he didn't come back to do this, unless he went to go play in the UFL. But you don't want to usually have to take a route like that. My question for you is, realistically though, where do you think Ole Miss is going to finish in the SEC in 2026? And we got to keep in mind, you still got Georgia. I think LSU is going to have a bounce back season under Lane Kiffin's first season there. I'm excited for what Florida should be able to do with this new coach. I don't know what to expect out of Alabama yet. Vanderbilt has been spending pretty well here in the NIL. I expect Tennessee to have somewhat of a bounce back year. It was a disappointment for them. Texas, to me right now, they're the cream of the crop. But that's a story for another day. But where do you have Ole Miss right now?
Oh, that is a good question. I honestly could see them finishing as high as either. I think I could see them finishing, like, as far as the ceiling goes, them being in the SEC championship. I really think that they're that good. It really just all depends on who is coming back, who they bring in, because, like you said, the talent in the SEC. Because I do think that Texas does have the best talent right now. If we're going off of who's returning, I think that Texas has it. But then, like you said, Georgia is always going to be that team that's always going to be in the fray no matter what. Well coached, always going to be a favorite to come out of the SEC. Alabama, still a lot of questions. I really don't know. Same with Oklahoma, a lot of questions. I don't know. I think another year with John Mateer should be enough to actually see some type of rise from them, because I think they faltered late in the year and it just kind of was never the same again. LSU that's the one I'm waiting to see, because yes, I know Lane Kiffin coming in, but I wonder, are they going to have like that that little trial run where things don't necessarily go as well. Then later on, they find their footing a little bit. So I do think that Ole Miss can finish in the SEC championship game. I do think that they're that talented. I think a full off season, will do wonders for that program, especially with the transition from Lane Kiffin. I think that they'll do, a lot for that program. So I still believe in them. I still think that they have enough juice on that offensive side of the ball to make something happen. But it is going to be a grind this year coming up because of literally the things that we all just named. It's going to be a grind for them. So, I mean, second possibly in the SEC West, but it really, I'm sorry, not the SEC West, SEC East, but it's all going to depend on like who they bring in to actually with this transfer portal as well.
Congratulations once again to Trinidad Chambliss. And we also have to say congratulations to the new world champions in the NFL, the Seattle Seahawks, defeating the New England Patriots 29-13 and what was pretty much a sleeper for most of the game, KB, if we're being honest, in Super Bowl 60. It wasn't very enjoyable until things really kind of started to heat up there late in the third quarter and we finally started to see some touchdowns going up on the board. Sam Darnold wasn't spectacular, but he did enough to go out there and win the game. And the main thing he didn't go out there and do was take sacks and have turnovers like Drake May did. Has he silenced all of his doubters for you?
Yes, but it's not without, a little bit of a caveat in there. Sam Darnold didn't have to do much because there were a lot of throws that he made in that game that left a lot to be desired, especially the one to JSN early in the game where he broke free. That should have been an easy touchdown. But I will say that he played pretty much how he played throughout the postseason. He didn't have to wow anybody, but he played mistake-free football, which in his case was perfect because another guy that we are going to talk about, Kenneth Walker, he carried the load for that team. While he didn't necessarily do it with like scoring touchdowns, he controlled the pace of the game. He was popping off maybe 5 to 6 yards per carry. So he was moving the chains enough to get them in the field goal range. Sam Darnold made a few good clutch throws when he needed to. But like I said, this just exemplifies the playoff run that he had. He made 0 mistakes. He didn't turn the ball over. He had a few throws that he wished he could have got back. I'm sure he did. I'm sure that some of those throws, had the game gone a little differently, he would have been thinking about those same throws. But he did enough. Now, the reason why I say he silenced the doubters for me because of the fact that you go from the Vikings, where you had a lot of success, and then fizzled out in the playoffs. Then you come to a Seattle team where there were a lot of questions. Mike McDonald in his first year, nobody knew exactly what to expect from this team. JSN has a breakout year. Kenneth Walker remains steady on the ground. And then you got a defense that actually played lights out. I can't give them enough credit. If there was a team award, I would have even been okay with an MVP award going to the entire defense. That's how well they played. But they also played well in this playoff run as well. So we got to give them some credit as well. But, yeah, I think that Sam Darnold, for me, now he has that chip on his shoulder because he was always being told, we always heard the whispers that he didn't have enough to get it done when it mattered. The regular season, Sam Darnold, he led the league in turnovers, but he did enough in this playoff run for me to say like he silenced the doubters and he won me over just because of I saw Sam Darnold step up in certain moments, make plays. So I'm not thrilled with his performance, but I'm okay with his performance because they played a complete game all the way around.
Before we go even further into this game and talk about Kenneth Walker and his performance, you brought up the Minnesota Vikings, so I want to ask you this. Do we look at Kevin O'Connell a little differently now than we did prior to this playoff run starting and it going the way that it did with the Seahawks just absolutely just blitzing through everybody for the most part of everything? And I ask that because Kevin's viewed as a guru, an offensive guru, a quarterback guru, and he had Sam Darnold right there in the building with him. but they lost their only playoff game that they played there with each other. He goes to Mike McDonald. Now, obviously, Clint Kubiak, who is now the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders, the Seahawks offensive coordinator in 2025. We're going to talk about Clint in just a second, even more. But do you still view Kevin O'Connell the way that you may have viewed him before all of this took place?
As in the sense of like as a quarterback guru, or in the sense that he can
In the sense
perform?
that he's one of the top head coaches in football.
I do think he has a brilliant football mind. If I had to say, he would be on that, like, if we were talking about like top 12 coaches, he would be in that latter half of the top 12. I do think he has a good football mind. So I'm not going to just throw the book out on him completely, because I do think Kevin O'Connell has shown that he has, he has the ability to get the most out of his guys. And then with the staff that he hires around him, they can produce. I just think that them letting Sam Darnold get out of the building and building around JJ McCarthy was a mistake. I think that Sam Darnold with another year with that team, because we look at it, the Vikings are definitely in the playoffs if they get Sam Darnold. If we swap out Sam Darnold for JJ McCarthy, because we saw a lot of games that they lost this year from quarterback play. I mean, it's no secret. JJ McCarthy, when healthy, wasn't producing. So you sub him out another year under Kevin O'Connell. I think that Kevin O'Connell, I think that they definitely get in the playoffs. That's just my belief, but that's just based off of what I saw last season. And then, I just had everything to believe that they would have done it, especially when they had not the best defense, but I think they had a decent defense enough to get it done to where, anything could have happened at that point. But I think that they made a mistake by letting Sam Darnold get out of the building.
No doubt they made a mistake letting Sam Darnold get out of the building, but I wanted to ask you that question about Kevin O'Connell in particular because it's been a topic of discussion this weekend. Yes, I agree that he is still one of the top offensive minds in football, but now there is a pressure to perform even more so now because the quarterback that you did have, he went elsewhere and he got it all the way done. But talk about a guy having a day, Kenneth Walker. One thing Seattle made sure they did this time around, KB, they made sure they did not repeat the mistakes that they made 11 years ago. They ran the damn football. Kenneth Walker, 27 carries, 135 yards. No touchdowns for him in this game. But he chose a great day to have a great game as he heads into free agency and is looking towards a great payday.
Hey, I'm going to just say this right now. I know that the running back position sometimes get overlooked. Some people say, "Oh, you could just go get anybody." You better pay that man. Depending on what he is going for, better pay that man, because like I said, when it mattered the most, he saved them. Because while he didn't score, if you watch that game, he was their offense for pretty much a majority of that game. He literally, when I say that his runs, not only were I remember the one run where he had basically came to almost a complete stop, saw that, had enough vision to see the hole open up, and he shot through it. You can't teach vision. You just can't. And if you're a coach, especially looking at running backs, you need to have someone who has that presence in the locker room, has the ability to be, a factor on offense. Like, really, we looked at that as a defensive struggle up until Kenneth Walker started to make his presence in that game. And when he did, he was able to get them in field goal range.
Let me ask you this question before we keep going on this really quickly, because I watched a couple of his runs specifically on Sunday. This is a Michigan State running back. There's another Michigan State running back who used to run the exact same way about a decade ago. Who did Kenneth Walker III look like to you out there on Sunday with some of the way that he was running that football?
That specific run I just told, he did look a little bit like Le'Veon. He did. I'm not gonna lie, because I was like, Le'Veon used to do the exact same thing where he will almost come to a complete stop, and once a hole would open, he was out of there. So Le'Veon still has some of the best vision we've seen from the running back position in history, just because he didn't do it. He wasn't like this super athletic guy where he always was just this imposing force, but he was so smart. His IQ and his vision was the reason why Le'Veon Bell was so successful. And I'm glad you brought him up because, like I said, it was a lot of those plays. But Kenneth Walker had nothing. He had nothing. He was supposed to be in the backfield, tackled for loss, and he made those runs. So, like I said, that was the offense for pretty much up through 3 quarters. There was nothing. I think that I can't recall completely, but I don't think that the Seahawks scored their first touchdown until either late the last few minutes of the third quarter or early in the fourth.
You are correct. Jackson Smith Ninjigba. He was the big talk heading into the game because of the year that he had as the offensive player of the year, and rightfully so. He had his least productive game of the season in the Super Bowl. Only 4 catches for 27 yards, 10 targets. Now, he did go out some with an injury, but the only reason this didn't end up being like a 49-13 game is because of the job that Christian Gonzalez did just trying to keep the Patriots in things and contain the perimeter play nearly single-handedly by himself out there. He had a day. If you didn't know who Christian Gonzalez was before this, you should know who he is now. And he is right there with guys like Devin Witherspoon and Pat Surtain and Stingley in Houston. He is right there with them amongst the best cornerbacks in the game.
Yeah, he earned every bit of everyone's respect on Sunday. When I tell you, it was so many deep shot plays that they wanted to take, especially the one to Shaheed that he broke up. Then you look at the job he did on JSN, who won Offensive Player of the Year. He locked him down. Like there was nothing to be said about like. And a couple of times, I thought he had an interception that he dropped. That kind of I was pissed because I was like, yeah, he got to come up with that one because I think that if anything that if they would have had a chance to win that game, Christian Gonzalez would have been my MVP just because of the job that he did. You can't say enough about him. Like he played his ass off, and he deserves a boatload of credit because, like I said, like you just said, he deserves to be in that top 5 conversation as far as corners in the league because the Derek Stingleys of the world, the I don't want to talk about Sauce Gardner, but now he's kind of out of that conversation. Now we're talking about the Derek Stingleys, the Pat Surtains of the world. This guy showed me that this is kind of the way that these new corners are. Long, rangy corners that can run with you, that can play physical with you. That's Christian Gonzalez. He showed it in college. He showed it on the biggest stage. So, like I said, whatever he's asking for money-wise, when it's time, you gotta keep him in the building because I think that's a superstar right there.
Unfortunately, one of the Patriots superstars who still has some work to do, and that would be one Drake May. There were times during the game on Sunday, I would say that Drake May mimicked and looked like Sam Darnold when Sam Darnold was a New York Jet with some of the things that he was out there doing, the way he turned the football over, as many sacks as he was taking. It just was not a great day for him all the way overall, but I appreciate his passion in the post game about how much he loves the team. I appreciate seeing that, but obviously, KB, there's still some work that needs to be done because Drake May was not ready for that game on Sunday. Not with what that defense was throwing at him. And listen, as dominant as Seattle's defense was in that game, Matt Stafford did prove that if you are an elite quarterback, you can do some things on them. They might have the last say, but you can at least make things interesting because we watched the Rams make things interesting with them all 3 times that they played them. Beat them the first time, lost the second time, obviously lost in the NFC Championship. But where does Drake May now rank for you in terms of the class of quarterbacks that he came in with, in terms of being there with Caleb and Bo and even Jaden Daniels?
I still think you got to look at him as like one of the top quarterbacks out of that class. I do think that this wasn't much of a surprise for me, only because if you look at his playoff run, it wasn't impressive at all. He did not have a good playoff run at all. If most of that was because he did enough. and his defense helped him out a lot. And that defense did play pretty well in the Super Bowl up through 3 quarters. They played amazing. So I don't really have much to say about the job that Drake May did because, like I said, it's not surprising to me. We saw him have bad games against the Chargers, the Texans, the Broncos. We saw him, like, honestly, and here's my takeaway from X. Given the weather conditions, I think if Bo Nix played, they beat the Patriots. That's exactly where I was going with the whole thing. I was just like, I'm not really surprised because a lot of the stuff that he got away with through those first 3 games in the playoffs, he could not get away with it because Seattle's defense was flying too fast. They had pass rushers. They had people that can cover in space. So it wasn't like that Drake May played his worst game. I think that this was just a continuation of what he was already doing. And Seattle's defense showed that they can rise to the occasion. Like I said, you had guys like I'll give some type of flack to the Patriots O line. I gotta get on them a little bit because as much as we give credit to the Seattle defensive line, I think that the Patriots offensive line played their worst game, not just of the playoffs, but of the season. They literally could not block anybody. Will Campbell, I am definitely looking at you because you look like almost like you were a shell of what you were in college, and then you look like a shell of the praise that they gave you early in the season. He couldn't block a lick, and it wasn't without fault. Like Seattle has been one of the best defensive units in the NFL this season. So I think that if we give if we hold Drake May's feet to the flame because he did not play well, we also got to hold the Patriots O-line to the flame as well. We got to give everybody the same amount of blame when we look at it. And we got to give more credit to Seattle's defense. They just rose to the occasion in a game where, a lot of these guys hadn't even been in a Super Bowl ever. So we got to give those guys credit too because they didn't even need the experience. They just came out there and performed without any pressure.
So I want to ask you one last question on this whole thing. And I was thinking about this as I'm sitting there watching the game, and through most of it, the Patriots offense just looking absolutely putrid and in futility. Is this a stain on Josh McDaniels' legacy as an offensive coordinator? And I ask you that because this was his 10th Super Bowl that he's coached in. But in the previous 9, there was one constant that was there for all 9 of those. And his name is Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr. And he did not have him out there, obviously, on Sunday. But McDaniels is a guy who is credited for help turn Tom Brady into Tom Brady because of the offense that it is that he runs. Do you look at him a little differently now as an offensive coordinator, or was this simply just a bad day at the office and we just need to give Seattle's defense all the credit?
I think this was just a bad day in the office. And the reason why I say this is because it worked throughout the regular season. I think they ran into a buzzsaw at the wrong time. I think that Seattle defense is that good. And I think that they had no answers for him. Like, quite frankly, I think that it wasn't more so that he was just putrid on with his play calling. I think that Seattle just was the team this year. I think that they had it all. You saw it in the regular season. You saw it throughout the playoff run. They were making teams like regret everything. And I think that Josh McDaniels, while he did have Tom Brady for 9 of those Super Bowl runs, I can't count him out just because, like I said, if all things are considered and they stay the same, Drake May is going to build off of this, and hopefully he gets better. Hopefully the offensive line gets better. I think that they are set up to come back. They do have a few moves that they do need to make, but I do think that they are set up for another Super Bowl run. I don't know if they're going to, We always see teams go to the Super Bowl, lose, and then they're not the same the very next year. That could very well be the case with them as well. But I do think they're set up to be, to win the AFC East once again, because we don't know what the situation is going to be in Buffalo. So I do think they have an opportunity to go back. I think that Drake May continues to progress, and this is just off of the trajectory that I think he is going to be on. I think that he is going to take this as a learning lesson. We got to remember he's in year 2. So you got a quarterback that in year 2 finished second in the MVP race. That is something that you can take from that. You can build off of that. And there's certain losses where you feel like that you were just unprepared for what you ran into that day. This is one of those losses. This is why I say that Seattle's defense deserves all the credit, because they stifled him throughout the game. He had no options. He couldn't run. He couldn't throw. They didn't get anything pretty much on the running through the run game. Receivers could not get open. That's just what it was. So I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, was it six sacks?
Yes, it was 6 sacks.
Yeah. See, that just tells me that you got to give their defense all the credit, because they dialed up blitzes at the right time. Defensive line dominated the game. So, yeah, you just got to give Seattle's defense pretty much most of the credit, because they took the Patriots' offense out of the game.
Well, something else the Patriots didn't do to help themselves, they didn't run the ball worth a damn in this game. There were a combined 18 carries for just 79 yards, and the bulk of those actually came from Drake May, the quarterback, 37 yards for him. Ramondre Stevenson, only 23 yards on 7 carries. Travion Henderson, only 19 yards on 6 carries. That is not going to get it done, but that goes back to the continuing retooling of this offensive line that needs to happen. I honestly question if Will Campbell is the left tackle of the future. Should they consider moving him to the interior as one of the guards, or possibly moving him to the right tackle and upgrading at that position?
I mean, that's where it's heading, because, like I said, that's a confidence killer. The way he played on Sunday, that was a confidence killer, especially for a guy that's a rookie. I mean, you would hope that he can build off of this and learn from some of the things that he did wrong. But he was getting manhandled out there, and I don't know if he can come back from this, because he was stout coming out of college, where I believe he only gave up 1 sack, to now being dominated on the biggest stage of his career. I don't know if I would make a move just yet, but if I do continue to see things, I say through the first few games of the upcoming season, I think that you may have to consider it. It's just, I don't want to kill a guy's confidence, because that tells me if you make that move, you have no confidence that he can hold it down outside on his own, and that you need to move him interior. So I don't want to kill his confidence going into year 2, where he needs a confidence boost, because, like I said, I know that was a sleepless night for him. I know that he thought he pretty much replayed every play where he gave up a sack, and he can point to everything that he did wrong. So he's a smart guy. I think he'll figure it out, but I don't know if I would give up on him just yet.
Yeah, I'm not saying they should give up on him, but I mean, even throughout the regular season, there were times I questioned, should he be in that left tackle spot? Congratulations once again to the Seattle Seahawks. There's a lot of questions to be had there in the AFC. But one thing that will be different about the AFC and the Seattle Seahawks, where they're being impacted, they will have to get a new offensive coordinator, and that is because Clint Kubiak is officially the new head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders, agreeing to a 5-year deal. He was introduced earlier this week. Says he's really looking forward to working with Tom Brady. I'm glad he said that, because you are going to be taking your instructions from Tom, no doubt about it. That's the only way the Raiders are going to get back on track, because what Mark Davis has been doing for the past decade or so, it's just not working. So you need to get that voice in there, and I'm sure Tom's going to have a lot of say-so in everything that happens there going forward, even if he is just a minority owner. Fernando Mendoza is slated to be the number 1 overall pick. We knew this before Clint Kubiak even took the job. And now, we talked about this last week, Max Crosby and the Raiders possibly being on the outs. Well, he came out today and said that those reports are not true, and he actually could be coming back to the Raiders. I don't know if I actually believe that or not, but Your overall expectations for Clint Kubiak as he heads into this new job with the Raiders, who have been a tire fire for the better part of the last 25 years, but hoping that he and Fernando Mendoza and Tom Brady and company can help get it back on track.
Yeah, I mean, I still feel like they're gonna finish the bottom of the division, but that's just given the talent that is in that division. I do think that they're going to have great moments this year because with Fernando Mendoza possibly becoming the number one overall pick, who better to learn from than Tom Brady? Who better to learn from than Clint Kubiak coming off of a Super Bowl? So you take someone like that, you have you have a young running back, you have a young quarterback. Sky could be the limit. Whether they bring Max Crosby back is something big because they may not look to build off of his trade value. Possibly move him, get back some draft capital, and then start rebuilding from there. Like because if you're gonna go young and you're gonna rebuild this whole thing from scratch, go ahead and just do it all the way. Don't be 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Just do it all the way if you're gonna do it. So
Especially
that's
when you got a guy like Max Crosby, who I'm pretty sure there are some teams who will spend at least 2 first-round picks for. If Sauce Gardner could go for multiple first-round picks, Max Crosby can go for multiple first-round picks somewhere.
exactly. And I saw a report that says whatever that the Packers gave up to get Micah Parsons, it's going to be double that. So you got to understand that if you want a premier pass rusher in this league, especially a guy who's been doing it even on a bad football team for years, you're going to have to pay. You're going to have to give up something of significance. So if, like you said, Sauce Gardner and Micah Parsons and guys like this can go for the draft capital and get the draft capital that they could get, you definitely are going to look at the value that Max Crosby can bring to your team. So I look at it like this is a very intriguing situation. Like I said, we ain't going to see it all next year because, like I said, they are going to take their lumps. Fernando Mendoza is going to have to get used to taking these lumps because he's coming off of a national championship and the Heisman. And, Clint Kubiak's coming off of winning the Super Bowl, where, in my opinion, he was coordinator of the year. But this is going to be where they're going to have some growing pains, but in moments, you're going to see enough that you're going to be like, okay, we got this young talent around us. Now we got the guy at the helm. We got ownership's backing. We got a guy like Tom Brady who can be, give some insight to Mendoza, given if he is the number one pick. So things are looking up in Vegas. They're just not going to be a complete finished product by next year. I say you got to give it a few years before you actually see if this is going to work. But it is looking it's not looking as gloomy as it was, in the Pete Carroll days and even excuse me, and even like in the Geno Smith era is over, so you don't have to worry about that. I do think it's going to be better than whatever that was. That was a mess. So I think that give it some time, give it a couple of years, and we'll start to see a few things.
I want you to envision one thing here for a second. Max Crosby on the Chicago Bears with what they already have. The fact that they're not paying Caleb Williams yet serious NFL elite quarterback type money.
I'm not mad at it. I honestly, I'm not mad at it. That would be vicious. And him going to the NFC North, I think that would be perfect for him.
Because the Bears were literally a play or two away from being able to make it to the NFC Championship game themselves. They need an effective pass rusher. I was a little upset a couple of years ago when I saw that the Falcons had a chance to get Montez Sweat and they didn't make all the efforts to go after him. I'm kind of glad that that worked the way that it did now, considering what Montez Sweat has gone to Chicago and has not exactly metamorphosized into.
Yeah, I mean, it was disappointing for sure. I remember that time that you were speaking on too. I was kind of just like, I mean, seeing Montez Sweat in college, I was like, dang. I always looked at him like, okay, the Falcons could get him. But when I heard the reports, that's why I hate these kind of reports come out because it kind of gets your hopes up for it, especially if you're a fan of a certain guy. But Yeah, I think that they are definitely looking at improving their edge rushers because if they can get someone like Max Crosby in his prime, ain't no telling what that defense could be because we saw what Ben Johnson did for Caleb Williams this year. We saw what he did for DeAndre Swift, Roma Duzet. We saw what he could do for them. So I think offensively, you got to keep this thing. You got to keep this thing together. Now, if you can just build on this on defense, man, yeah, because you have players and you have some good players at key positions. I think you just have to add on a little bit more. Draft well and add a guy like this, and you right in the thick of things.
And you also allow Dennis Allen to really be able to go into his defensive bag. Dennis Allen is at his best when he has guys that can get after the quarterback. So we'll wait. We'll see what happens. Congratulations to Clint Kubiak on his job as the Raiders' new head coach, and we will see what they will do. One thing we do know for a fact, Mendoza will at least have Brock Bowers to throw the football to as long as he's able to be out there healthy on the field. So that's at least one weapon for him. Let's transition now to the NBA though, KB, because my beloved Los Angeles Lakers, it has not been a good week in any way whatsoever for them. Blasted by the San Antonio Spurs on Tuesday. All of the stars pretty much missed that game. LeBron's out, Luka's out, Reeves is out, Marcus Smart is out. The former number one overall pick, DeAndre Ayton, with the Phoenix Suns, who is now a Laker, he's out. I say it like that for him because I said most of the stars are out. I want everybody to understand something right now. DeAndre Ayton is not a star. This has been a total disappointment this season. It started off looking strong, and now it has just fizzled just completely all the way out. We'll get to LeBron's comments though about this Lakers team in just a moment because they lost to OKC on Monday too. But go ahead, KB, because I know you got something you want to add.
I gotta add something to that DeAndre Ayton comment, just because I remember at a point early in the season, we had Lakers fans calling him dominating. I remember seeing these tweets. I dare someone to tell me that I'm wrong because when he was playing well, I remember it so vividly that they were saying, "Oh man, Portland and Phoenix fans, why did y'all give up on him? This guy's great." And now we see him for what he has been, and he always has been for the majority of his career. This guy is just not it. I'm not going to even use any derogatory terms or anything demeaning to describe him. He's just not it. For the billing that he had at number one pick coming out of college, where he was supposed to be a surefire big man who had this combination of skill, touch, footwork, shot blocking ability, he is not it. And I remember at a time that they were saying this guy was going to be perfect next to Luka and LeBron. People were telling me that he was going to be the big man that was going to pretty much solve their problems. And man, when I tell you, I was only just waiting to see because I know who he is. I know what he has been for when he was in Phoenix. I know what he was when he was in Portland. This guy, I don't know if he believes his own hype, but for what he is supposed to be and what he actually is, it's disappointing. I don't think that this Lakers roster is constructed well, if you want me to be completely honest. I think this is one of the worst constructed rosters in the NBA, especially for you to be in the Western Conference and in the hell that you have to go through in that conference alone just to have a top 6 seed. I think that this is a terrible roster because it has no real identity. We don't know, like, they're young in certain aspects. They have vets in certain aspects, but they don't really have an identity what they are. JJ Redick, I think he's fighting a losing battle as well because
Here's what we know, KB.
go
All
ahead.
we know is that it's Luka's team. What the hell
That's
does
it.
that really look like? We really don't know yet, but we just know that it's Luka's team because they came out and they just anointed at that point, and they should because he's the young 27-year-old superstar. But that's the only thing we know about this team.
Yeah, and that really doesn't say much just because you got a guy who's a top 5 player in the world. I would hope that it's his team. I would hope that you aren't looking at 41-year-old LeBron to still carry the torch. But to be honest with you, the one thing I say that kind of pisses me off with the Lakers. No one on this team should be calling out anyone. Y'all all are playing bad. Like the thing is, though, we talk about defensive identity all the time. You have none. You can't stop anybody. You can't stop anybody. Your stars don't lead by example. So these role players that are supposed to have a niche, they're supposed to be a specialized defenders, if you want to say that. You brought in Marcus Smart, great on ball defender. He's looked shaky at times. You have Jared Vanderbilt, who's supposed to be a great on ball, and he's supposed to be able to affect passing lanes. He hasn't really been there much, anyways, either. So you look at it like from top to bottom, this is bad. And that is the reason why I would not feel comfortable picking the Lakers, not at the beginning of the season, not now, to win a championship. I do think their window is closed just because of the fact that I think LeBron, his comments, I think that was more directed at the front office. He knows this team is no good.
That's actually a good segue point to lead me into those comments. So a reporter asked LeBron James about how this team fares up against a team like OKC. And LeBron asked the reporter, he said, "You want me to compare us to them?" And the reporter said, No, just know where you guys fare up against them. And LeBron immediately said, "They're a championship team and we're not." He said the difference is they can sustain energy and effort for 48 minutes and we cannot. That is why they are the champions right now. And while you said, and I agree with you on this, we shouldn't be looking at 41-year-old LeBron, there clearly are people who still think that we should be. They still think this man is 26-year-old LeBron James, because there were people who called him out for these comments, saying, "Oh, here this guy goes again. He's deflecting. He's blaming. Why didn't he get out there and try to help do something about it?" No, I'm not mad at LeBron for this. Number one, Kobe Bryant, rest his soul, he used to do this all the time. And he would actually call teammates out by name when they weren't doing what they were supposed to do. I remember a couple of instances where Pau Gasol got called out in post-game press conferences because there was something that he was not out there doing that he should have been doing. So I have no problem with LeBron James coming out here and telling the truth that everybody else is already thinking anyway. And plus, the Lakers pretty much have given him a big FU anyway. They've pretty much made it known, we're not building around your timeline. We're focusing on Luka's prime and Luka's future. The confusing thing about that to me, though, is that Luka's in his prime right now at 27 years old. So this is a wasted opportunity that you have chosen to not. I'm going to go down a list of something here really quickly. Jeremy Sohan was just waived by the San Antonio Spurs a little more than 36 hours ago. He's already been claimed by the New York Knicks. I was hoping that was somebody the Lakers would have put a waiver out on. Cam Thomas, he got waived by the Brooklyn Nets. I talked about it here on the show. Hopefully Lakers can go get him for the cheap. Nope, signs with the Milwaukee Bucks and is already out there getting buckets. Matisse Thybulle could be a buyout candidate. Do I expect him to go to the Lakers now at this point? No. And then I look at some of the smaller trades that are going to have big dividends that we talked about that happened at the trade deadline. You're telling me the Lakers couldn't put some type of package together to go get Jose Alvarado and bring him and his energy and his effort over to that team? So, yes, I do believe that LeBron James is more so calling out the front office than his teammates, and he should. KB, it's no secret for those who know me, I have been ready for Rob Pelinka to go. I have been unhappy with the rosters that this man has put together for years now. And now that Mark Walter is here, and you already hear these reports about how there are going to be sweeping changes across the Lakers this offseason, especially in the front office. They look to model it almost like how the Dodgers model their franchise. Remember, Andrew Friedman is an advisor with this front office board right now since Mark Walters purchased the team. And I'm looking at Rob Pelinka and I'm like, are you even trying to save your job at this point, or do you just no longer care because you know that you're on the outs? So no doubt, LeBron was calling out the front office. He should have called out the front office. And it wouldn't surprise me this offseason if that cupboard is pretty much stripped bare of everybody except Luka and JJ Redick.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, man, like the Lakers and LeBron's relationship is completely crumbled at this point. I do expect him to be gone after this season. But Overall, like I said, the moves that the Lakers have made to me don't make much sense at all. And the fact that they haven't inquired about, because somebody like Cam Thomas, I do think that he could have helped the Lakers. I really don't care what a lot of people have to say about that. You can't tell me that a guy like that, who can literally create his own shot, couldn't help the Lakers at this current moment. Because they have times where they struggle to score the basketball. Like, just to be honest with you, like I said, LeBron's 41, Luka's 27, but you still, other than, like you just said about it being Luka's team, that's about the only thing that we already know. Um, I think that JJ Redick, while he has done some good things to revitalize this franchise, I still think that this is like a losing fight. And I think that Rob Pelinka is going to get a lot of this blame. And whether people feel like it's warranted or not, I do. I do. Like, that is literally your job. You are the you are the general manager for the Los Angeles Lakers. You have an obligation to put the best amount of talent around your budding star, which is Luka
Kirby, I want to
Doncic.
read you something really quickly, and this was the Lakers starting lineup on Tuesday night. Rui Hachimura, Jake LaRavia, Jackson Hayes, Luke Kennard, and Kobe Buffkin. Do any of those names move you in any way whatsoever?
Not gonna lie, if that's the starting lineup for a game I'm going to, I want my money back, all of it. Not even some, I want all of it back. I did not come to see that. I want the entire refund, and I need it processed immediately.
And in that game, Victor Wembanyama scored 25 points in the first quarter, and he only played 8 minutes, 37 in the first half, 40 for the game. And I know that the Lakers' new owners had to be somewhere watching that, just like, okay, yeah, we need to totally strip this down and rebuild it. And honestly, KB, I'm going to be honest with you, because Mark Walter being the owner of the Dodgers, we've seen them move off stars over the years. We saw them move off Manny Machado. They moved off Cody Bellinger, who was a National League MVP. They moved off Corey Seager. They moved off Trey Turner. They move off people. It would not surprise me if they don't end up getting something done within the next year or so, if they make changes to try to get something done. If they were to move Luka Doncic, I wouldn't put it past this new ownership to do something like that because of what I've seen them do with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Now, obviously, baseball and basketball are two different sports, but the standard is the standard, and it is championships. Mark Walter does not want to hear about all these injuries that the Lakers are having either, because the Dodgers literally are having to go 40 pitchers to try to get through a postseason, basically, and they're still out here winning world championships. Yeah, there are going to be some changes that are going to be made, and I brought it up, you brought it up, we're going to bring it up again. Luka, you don't have to be a lockdown defender, but you need to get out there and move your feet or something. You need to put in some type of effort, because what you're doing is not it.
Which is why I said that your stars can't even call out people, because you can't call out anyone unless you are going to be absolved, like, and absolve yourself of blame. Because if you are not going to play defense yourself and lead by example, how can you expect a role player who's not on the contract that you are on, whose team is not, like, you can't expect them to do something that you won't do. Part of the reason why we used to anoint guys like Kobe and even LeBron at certain points in his career, we used to give them the praise that they did is because they led by example. They would go out there and guard. You can't tell me to guard if you aren't going to guard anyone, because I'm not going to receive it the same way. If you're not going to put your body on the line, go after loose balls, do the things, the dirty work, I'm not going to do anything that I'm not seeing a leader do. Yes, I'm trying to fit my role, but I'm also trying to be the best teammate possible. And if you can't do the things that you're asking me to do, how can I look at you as a true leader if and I'm looking at Luka, because like I said, Luka's criticisms have been the same no matter if he was in Dallas or if he was in LA. And I do think that I agree with you as far as like the standard that's being set by, like I said, not even just the Lakers, but the city of Los Angeles. They're used to winning. Dodgers, the Lakers, hell, if you want to talk about hockey, they were winning at some point. Like, they're not used to having these years where they are just like good enough just to compete. go to the playoffs, lose, do it all over again. So I do think that there's going to be something that will come out of this. Like I said, them trading Luka, if that seems like the move, hey, I can see it, because I don't think that you can win a championship with a guy that doesn't play or even gives effort enough to play defense. I don't think you can, especially given the talent that's around him. I don't think that he will win a championship in LA unless he changes the way that he plays. Whether you can't tell me that we grew up playing basketball and you play defense, and all of a sudden now he's too good to play defense, or he doesn't even give the effort because of all the stuff that he does on offense. That's not really a good reason to me. Just because I know that even if you don't sustain it for a full 48-minute game, you can put some effort in to just stay in front of the guy, because you don't have the rim protection behind you. Jackson Hayes and DeAndre Ayton put no fear in no one. I'm gonna, if ain't nobody else gonna say it, I'm gonna say it. Jackson Hayes, DeAndre Ayton, Rui Hachimura, 41-year-old LeBron, they don't put no fear into no one anymore. Like, that's not, like, LeBron had that fear factor at 26. He don't have that at 41. And I'm not saying that people are, that he's not, like, at least a good defender in certain spots. But the fear factor of, if I drive it in, LeBron's coming to chase it down, it's not there like it used to be. You be lying to yourself if you said that you feared LeBron when you're going to the basket, because he's not going to be able to give you full 100% effort 48 minutes a game. But Luka, you got to get something. It can't, like, I remember the way they used to talk about James Harden. And I remember Kobe even coming out publicly and saying, I don't think you can win a championship like that. It wasn't just the offensive game. It was the fact that he did not play a lick of defense. He didn't even seem interested in playing a lick of defense. And that is Luka Doncic now. You are food on defense. You are literal food. That is a problem, because when you don't have rim protection on the back end, if you aren't even able to stay in front of your guy, you're going to mess up rotations all the way around the floor. So, literally, I think that the Lakers are in a bad spot because, like I said, with LeBron's relationship done, pretty much done with the Lakers. I think he's just riding out the rest of this year. I never thought at one point that there was going to be a trade. I never thought that. I thought that this was just going to be his last year with the Lakers, and he's going to finish it up somewhere else, more likely Cleveland. But I think that if you are not going to put pieces around Luka to help win a championship, yeah, you have to look at trading him, because what's the point of wasting even more time and him losing more value the older he gets, and then starting over and just hoping that you can get some role players and some guys get ready to go right now, get your flexibility back cap wise, and then just start it all over anyways.
All right, let's get to some quick hitters, and we will keep them quick here. DeMarco Murray named the Kansas City Chiefs running backs coach. That's flying under the radar, KB. But Andy Reid is reloading up on that staff. And I just got to say, with them having a top pick in the first round for the first time in a long time, too, within that top 10 or so, look out for Kansas City, man. Do not count them out of things just yet.
Yeah, I do think that was a good move. I just really hope that they can, like, vamp up that running back room, because they are very disappointed with Pacheco, and I believe it was Kareem Hunt. They got to do something, because, like I said, their inability to run the ball in games, it's got to be something that's got to be highlighted a little bit more.
I'm just going to say this. If Jeremiah Love is on that board, that's exactly where I expect him to fall to. Cam Thomas played the Orlando Magic in his second game with the Milwaukee Bucks on Wednesday night, and he lit them up, KB. 34 points off the bench in 25 minutes. Giannis, this might have saved Giannis in Milwaukee long term if Cam Thomas can keep this up.
That's a crazy thing to believe, that Cam Thomas was the one that saved Giannis in Milwaukee. But Cam Thomas, man, he's a bucket everywhere. No matter what uniform he has on, certified bucket getter. So, yeah, I'm happy that he's out of Brooklyn. He can actually play, carefree basketball again, do his thing.
Spring training starting up for Major League Baseball this week, and unfortunately, we already got some injuries to report. Notably, Jackson Holiday. I was actually out there on Wednesday, KB, at Ed Smith Stadium in Sarasota when their president of baseball operations, Mike Elias, for the Baltimore Orioles, the first thing that he announced is that Jackson Holiday was going to be out to start the season with a broken hand. Then later throughout the day, we learned about Francisco Lindor, learned about Corbin Carroll. It's not a good start for the MLB as they prepare for this grind of 162 after spring training ends within the next month and a half or so, because you want to see your stars out there. All the best to them, and also for the Atlanta Braves. And this one really is a blow. Spencer Schwallenbeck is on the 60-day disabled list, and it could be longer than 60 days. This has been their biggest problem for the past few years, is the injuries, especially to the pitching staff. So this doesn't help anything.
Yeah, man. Like you said, that's been the Braves' Achilles heel for the last couple of years, no matter if they were going on playoff runs or not. The inability to stay healthy, the blows that they've received to their starting pitching lineup as well as their bullpen, it just hasn't been good. Prayers for all the injuries. Hope that these guys can recover soon and come back and contribute to their teams because, like I said, that 162 game grind is something where the best ability is availability at this point. So, and that is everything that comes with baseball on their schedule.
Marcell Ozuna has a new home. He is now a Pittsburgh Pirate, which ironically enough, KB, is a 45-minute trip from the spring training home in Bradenton of the Pirates to where the Braves play here in Northport. I cover both of those teams while they're down here. I haven't had a chance to see Marcell out there with this new team yet because I haven't had a chance to see the Pirates yet, but I should see him on Monday. What's your reaction to that move?
Yeah, I mean, the writing was on the wall for a couple of years with Marcell Ozuna. They couldn't get a deal done. He came up in a couple of trade rumors over the years. But, I will, say thank you for his time with the Braves. He's always going to be a legend, a big bear. He's always going to be welcome in Braves country. We love the guy. He made mistakes. He grew from a couple of them. So, hopefully, he has success with the Pirates, and I wish him well.
And the final quick hitter I want to talk about, just because I thought this was interesting, Jerome Tang, the head coach of the Kansas State men's basketball team, well, they lost by 29 points on Wednesday, KB, and he had a lot to say about his team. He ripped them and said that they are a disgrace, and most of those guys will not be back on the team next year. I have no issue with this whatsoever. I just hope that he isn't part of the reason that they're out there playing like that. But we need to see more of this in sports, in my opinion. Call these guys and their lack of effort out. This used to be a normal thing in sports. Today you had people calling for this man's job. I think you need to bring coaching like this back, quite honestly.
Yeah, man, ain't a good tongue lashing ain't never hurt nobody. We grew up in that era where it wasn't reported what was said in our locker rooms. It was stuff that was said to us that we probably shouldn't even tell half the people about, but it wasn't reported on. So we've heard worse. And we got to, like you said, man, we're becoming too soft. Like everyone who grew up playing sports, who covered sports, you knew that this was just a normal thing. So I don't have no problem with it. And like I said, if they're playing with no effort because of him, then maybe he is right. A lot of these guys don't need to be on the team next year because if you can't rise to the occasion after getting a ton lashing, you don't need to be on this team. So I'm all for it.
All right, we'll be right back with part two of the Why Not Now podcast. We got to dig into some serious matters that are taking place into the sports world. X and KB coming at you. We'll be right back.